Hi, I'm Alex Archbold, and I've been buying and selling antiques since I was 9 years old. From basements to scrapyards, I'll look just about anywhere I can to find lost antiques and collectibles. And sometimes I'll go big and buy everything. I never know what's going to happen or who I'm going to meet. This is our life, this is our adventure, and this is Curiosity Inc.
I'm home, honey.
Hi guys, welcome to today's episode. If you recall, I picked up an old English limousine that I believe was used in a royal tour and was later owned by the mayor of Bath, and then a wedding car. Anyway, it had a problem with the door. And today, with Steven's help, we were able to remove the door and get it in place. So I'm going to do a little bit of work on the door, I guess, today, and hopefully get it so it lines up. I'm going to show you what the problem is and then show you what I have to do to fix it. Thank you, kiddo, for helping me out with the door. Of course. So the car is a 46 Daimler. It's a limousine, obviously. And this side of the vehicle is actually not too bad. I washed it the other day. It's sitting square on all four tires. In fact, there was really nothing wrong with the vehicle. It was driven up until 1990, and that's when a problem occurred. The driver's door, which is now off, was blown open in the wind at a wedding, and it pulled the door all the way back, smashed it into that handle, and made it so that it didn't line up properly. And because it didn't line up properly, this whole area here, where the catch is, was damaged. And it's been scraping and just making a mess out of things because nobody ever addressed the situation until now. My worry was, with the wood being as bad as it is here, look at that. I'm going to have to figure out how to rebuild all that. That's a future problem for future me. The goal, what I'm trying to accomplish here today, is to make the door sit square, open and close without rubbing and causing all sorts of problems. I was concerned that when it blew open, as this is a wood frame car, that's wood right there. Yes, it's a wood frame car, that this would have been completely trashed. Surprisingly, it's all solid. It's solid on the hinge side, which is really important because I'm going to have to reattach it to the same spot. And if that was all blown out, well, you'd have to rebuild that too. So I at least have something solid to secure it to. I'm going to have to clean all this debris and all this other mess up. But that's step one, is getting the door off. Now let me show you the problem we're having on the door. Got the door sitting on this table, and I'm going to actually take the door panel off and the wood trim off and basically strip it right down so I can see what I'm working with. Because as I look here, hinge at the bottom looks pretty good. Second hinge looks all right. Maybe a little bit of a bend to it, but not too bad. This hinge completely messed up. The top hinge is way out of whack, way out of alignment. It's pushed deep inside of the door frame, and I think we're going to have some major issues in there. Essentially, this door was not sitting right because of this hinge right there. I'm going to see if I can pull this apart, mend it, and get it back together again. So follow along with me today as well. Hopefully I can make some progress. But first step, I've got to strip the door down, which means taking all the wood off and safely stowing it in the back of the vehicle. Wood is coming off just fine. And one thing I will say about the wood trim on this vehicle is that it's in remarkably good condition. There's no stains or pits or veneer peeling. Well, I guess there's no veneer on this. It's a solid piece of wood, but it's in excellent shape, which makes a job like this so much easier because all the pretty bits don't really need a lot. The problem is I have to peel all this back and see what's going on under here. This is where I'm going to run into the issue. So I'm going to pull the rest of this trim off, go put it in the back of the vehicle. And as I go, I'm labeling everything. Maybe you can't read my writing. It says Daimler driver's door wood trim screws. I just want to make sure that as long as I understand what it says, or hopefully the next person, if something, if for whatever reason it's not me that finishes the vehicle, that you always want to leave a bit of organization with the vehicle. Sometimes you get a car and somebody starts it and for whatever reason they don't finish and they leave you a coffee can full of nuts and bolts and you're left going like, what is this all about? I don't want to be that guy. So I'm taking the time to label everything and separate them out into baggies as I go. Well, I finally got the door panel off, and I have to say it was a lot more complicated than I expected. Heck, they just came out of World War II. You'd think they would have things streamlined, but no. A billion little screws all around holding a wood panel with the door panel screwed and stapled onto that. Anyway, it's all done now, It's off, it's done. The broken glass is in here. And that's actually a good thing because I might be able to get somebody to cut a template from it. So I'm going to try and save that somewhere. Other interesting things, look, there's a quarter from 1985. And a teensy tiny little British flag. Made in Japan, though. I'm sure there's some irony there. Anyway, who knows what else I'm going to find in here. But what I wanted to do is to get to this point so I can address the situation with the door frame. Now, so far, looks okay. And then you get here. Let me move this chunk of glass out of the way. You get to here, and there's our problem. A big old split in the wood. There's not much left of it. I'm going to see if I can, well, I'm going to try and remove this panel. Take that off completely, and I want to be able to access this. So peel the leather back and see what can be done with this, because that's my main problem right there, is this wood is completely split and broken. So I'm going to pop this hinge off and get the board off and then see what else I'm looking at here. For safety's sake, while I'm working on this, I did remove the glass. I put it in this plastic pail, not cardboard, so it wouldn't poke through. And I'm going to take that into a glass shop and have them use that as a template and cut me a new window. So I said, thankfully, the pieces were there so they can measure it, and I'll get that in. I'll probably take that in tomorrow so they can work on that while I'm working on this. In the meantime, I have to figure out what to do with this splintery, broken mess, and I think that's going to start with backing some screws out and just really assessing what's going on here. Now, the easiest solution here would be to get these to clamp back together like that. And see if that more or less lines back up. It does. I might just be able to save it by clamping this splinter back together because it hasn't charred completely. It's actually split lengthwise, which gives me a lot of surface area to work with. I'm going to do a few adjustments and try and tap it while it's clamped like that to get the wood to seat properly. But I think a little bit of carpenter's glue and maybe some extra screws through the backside there, and I might just get lucky here and be able to hold this frame back together. Well, I've taken the clamps off of the door, and it's now straight as an arrow again. I'm going to put the leather upholstery back on that I took off. I used a polyurethane wood glue. I believe it's a little bit stronger than your regular sort of white carpenter's glue, but it is holding nicely. I also took an opportunity while this was apart to try and hammer out with my body tools the dent that was on the underside here. You can kind of see it. Still not perfect, but it was creased in really good. At least that's popped back out enough to the point where I could work with it. I'm gonna vacuum this all up, get my tools cleaned up, start getting everything buttoned down and ready. The glass should be ready tomorrow to go back in. And I must say, I'm feeling, at this moment, relatively proud of myself for doing something that took 30 years for somebody to get around to doing. And I'm not a body man or anything like that, but I mean, you know, I guess where there's a will, there's a way. We'll see, maybe I'll hang it and it'll all go springing apart on me, but I don't think so. I think it's gonna be all right. I'm gonna get everything all cleaned up and start tackling the wood. Actually, I'm gonna set that here for now. I'll come back and put that in properly later. I went to Lee Valley, almost forgot the name, Lee Valley, an awesome woodworker store, and I figured they'd have something like this. This is called Liquid Wood and Wood Epoxy. It's a wood restoration kit. What it does is it takes swollen, dry rotted sort of wood, and you can inject, which I've got these little injectors, basically like syringes. You can inject into the bad wood and smear it over, and the epoxy will soak into the bad wood and make it a nice solid surface again. The reason I need this, or the reason I'm going to try that, is that this wood in this section is squishy and it's no good and I can't do anything with it. And I don't want to have to remove this hand-formed aluminum skin off of here. I'll never get it right again if I do it. to cut and form a proper. The real way to do this would be you would take the metal off, which is wrapped around the wood. You would cut a new piece of wood and put it back in place. The only part of this that's gone wrong is right in there, this section there. The rest of it's actually all pretty good. It's all very solid. It's just, you know, people have been opening and closing the door while it was out of alignment and it ruined it. So I'm going to try this epoxy fix and hope that it works. I mean, look at this. Look, there's nothing left. I'm hoping that with a little, you know, a little more than attention to detail, a little care and some, I don't know, wizardry, I might be able to make this solid surface again by injecting epoxy in there. But it's a hot mess right now. Anyway, you can see it's terrible. I'm gonna try fixing it. Okay, I've vacuumed all in here. It's probably a good opportunity for me to do a little fresh coat of black paint just to kind of clean things up in here, prevent future corrosion. I vacuumed and cleaned around the window cranks. I'm gonna re-oil everything. And I even found the wood block that's actually meant to support the window frame. It had come off, probably snapped off or come loose, and was sitting on the bottom. So we're gonna reattach that. Well, I've already reattached it, but this, where'd it go? There's a tiny little screw. Here it is. That was just fed through and into the wood, kind of on an angle. But I'm gonna wait to put that on until after the glass is in, because I might need that flexibility there to help get the glass in properly. Got my window channel back in place. It was all loose and it wasn't working because the wood was all cracked. Really, things are shaping up. I'm gonna give it a little coat of paint in here, let that dry, and then grease everything up and get it ready for the glass, which should be here tomorrow. I'm gonna give this liquid wood a try. This is, I'm shaking it here. You mix them together in equal parts and you can brush it on, or in my case, I bought some wood syringes that I'm gonna try and use to penetrate deeper into that wood. After it dries, it should harden like epoxy, turning the old rotted sections back into hard structural strength wood. The other one is more of a wood epoxy that you can smear on. That's not their official term, but you can put it on with a spatula or a trowel or whatever to build up the depth of the wood again. I've mixed up the epoxy and it's so weird. It's like I'm giving my car an injection. But yes, that's what you got to do. You got to get it in there so it penetrates in there, and you know, you can see how soft that wood is. It's actually taking some of that fluid, which is good. We'll get that in there, and hopefully this will set up and dry nice and solid. Hey, well, I guess I have to let this dry. I've soaked it really good. It's so dark, it just soaked it right up. And the idea is, I guess it's like replacing the space in the empty wood with this plastic. I hope that it is sturdy enough. I mean, it should be. I mean, people do epoxy resin all the time on really hard surfaces and tables. So if I was able to get it in there enough, you see all the little holes I poked in there? I could see it was getting in because I'd poke one in and it would come out another hole and work its way around. So it looks like I've saturated it pretty good. Now it's just a waiting game. Looks like, trust me, I know it looks like a mess. I'm hoping I can make it better. So this should be almost set up. Judging from the other side, see kind of how it's square shaped like that? That's meant to be flat. It actually goes in like about an inch. There's an inch of material missing out of there. So I have to build that right up, fill all those gaps and bring it back to the form that it was. I'll show you on the other side what it's supposed to look like. So although this isn't 100% perfect, at least it's a good example of what's supposed to be there. So it's kind of concave surface, rectangular, curves in and down. So I'm gonna have to recreate all of this. Because basically that's all missing on the other side. This whole bit is missing. I'll have to probably do a little bit of repair over here too, but nothing like what has to happen on the other side. The epoxy on the door was set up. So I am now moved on to the next step, which is the wood epox, which is basically like, when you mix them together, it forms like it feels like Play-Doh. And it is an epoxy and a filler. So I have filled in all the spots in here that need to be filled. That was the big one right there. That was missing a good chunk of wood there. So anything that was missing has been filled in, and then afterwards you can sand it down. So I'm waiting for that to set up. But I have to say, that epoxy that I injected into the wood did a great job. It took that rotted wood and it made it just as solid as it could ever be. So that seemed to work all right. I'm hoping this next stuff I put on there sets up just as nicely, because with the door latch going on here, I want it really strong and durable so that it doesn't, break loose and have the door fly open in the wind. So I don't know. We'll see what it turns out like. We'll see how durable it feels, but right now I'm just letting that dry. And while that is drying, I'm gonna move on to another project, which is doing some repair to the door panel. It's not in the greatest shape. The door panel is wood on the back of it, and it's, I don't know, probably it's got some water damage and some rot on it. So I picked up a new panel, and I'm gonna cut out and replace the broken bits on the old door panel. I'm gonna get a table set up, I'm gonna trace out a pattern and get this cut out. So that's my project while I'm waiting for stuff to dry. Also, I'm trying to get all this done before the glass is done so that I can put everything together all at the right time and I'm not waiting on me. You never wanna be the one who's waiting on yourself to get stuff done. Right now I'm just waiting on the glass repair guy, and then I should be able to start putting this door all back together. Hopefully I can get it to line up well, and that'll be the major problem with that car will be finally fixed. So this is the section of door panel I want to replace. Should be pretty simple. It's just held on with some nails and staples that they've put an excessive amount through because as you can see, it's rotted on the bottom here. That is no good. That board is worn out. So I'm gonna have to detach this completely from the carpeted section, and I'll use this as a template for the new section I'm planning on cutting out. I mean, it's lived a good life, it's from the 40s, heck, all that use and all that wear was bound that eventually it would need to be replaced, but I don't want to reinstall it look at this. I don't want to reinstall that. That's just nasty. So I'm gonna work on getting this taken off, and we'll cut out a new piece. Well, that wasn't so bad. It just had a whole pile of nasty old upholstery tacks and staples and other things. I want to try and keep this original door panel. So I'm going to actually soak it with some leather conditioner and let it sit. I guess I should empty whatever's in the pockets out. Look, 1948 limousine. Well, at least I know who the previous owner was. I'll have to look that up. Guess it was at a car show at some time. Business cards, magnetic limousine services. Okay, we'll get that soaked, and then I should be able to cut out that template. Getting ready to do the template here, getting the square edges lined up, so I'll have less cutting, and that is completely missing there. Looks like I bought too big of a board, but maybe I'll have enough to do the other door panel if it's in tough shape too. So I'm gonna get this in place, I'm gonna mark it off, and then it's zippity zorp. That's like the new bed knobs and broomsticks. Zippity zorp. Anyway, we'll get that cut out. New door panel is cut. I've got to cut the hole. It goes right there. That's for the door handle. But that should be pretty well good. I can start switching everything back over to this new piece. Good news, my glass arrived. Well, it arrived because I brought it here. I'm hoping that he was able to cut the dimensions properly because I really just gave him a puzzle piece of broken, nasty remains of what was a window. But he says he thinks he got it pretty good, so I guess we'll go find out. Well, I'll be darned if that doesn't look like it's just the right fit. Have to get the tracks lined up and in place, but I think that'll do. Reassembly begins. I got my new inner door panel cut and installed. The glass is in and I tested it. It's working. It's going up and down. Door hinge is back on and in place. Next, we're going to reattach that leather door panel that I reconditioned over the last couple days. It's not like it made it a whole lot softer or anything, but it's better than nothing. We'll get that back on there. Door is back together. Window is up. Glass is in and repaired. Handles are working. The next step will be this area that I patched, making it the right depth. You can see right now it's kind of binding. So I'm gonna have to mark very carefully how deep to sand that down tomorrow, so I don't go too far, but so that'll actually latch, and then try and attach the latch back on there again. Plus I can smooth it all out and paint it up, so that's tomorrow's job. Okay, I have my epoxy sanded down to about the right depth. I'm gonna tidy this up in here a little bit, but I wanna find out where the clasp goes, the latch goes. Incidentally, that epoxy worked awesome. It's working like a darn. I'm gonna try something a little different with this. I'm going to put the door latch in, both pieces, both together, like so. And I'm gonna take this marker and put a little ink around the edge. I have no idea if this is gonna work. I'm hoping what will happen is it'll leave an impression, a mark, roughly where that thing's supposed to go. Look, it actually stuck right where it was supposed to go. Let's see if it left a mark. Yeah, kind of. I want to make sure that I can screw this on in the right place, so I'm gonna try a couple different techniques. Measuring is probably a good way, but something simple like this might work too. Okay, it's marked. Drilled the holes out for where it's gonna go. I'm gonna tidy this up in here a little bit, try and square it off a little nicer. And I can paint, reattach this, and I should have a door that latches again. Before I paint, I actually decided to apply another coat of the liquid epoxy over top of everything to seal in any exposed wood, and also just to strengthen the epoxy that I had put in there before. So I'll let that set up. It's gonna actually take about, I think they said about 8 or 9 hours to dry. So we'll give that a chance to dry and set up, and then I can paint and then I can install. Well, look at this. And best yet, check that out. That wasn't me. That was there before. It's fatigue, the aluminum fatigue there. But look at I got the door gap nice. It's fairly flush. I was able to get the pinstriping to more or less line up. There's a little bit of door sag there, but overall that's not bad considering it was a door that didn't even work before. So I'd say mission accomplished today. Oh, a little flake of paint falling off. Mission accomplished today on making it so I have a functioning door with glass. I've decided that what I'm gonna do is take this car in, and get the brakes checked over. I bought some replacement tires that are over there. Because the ones that are on it, although these tires are authentic, it's a funny size. They're really old. They're probably almost as old as the car. They're Dunlop 8.0017s. The size they don't really make, not a common tire size. But a 245/75 R17 is almost the same. But I have to take it into a specialty shop to get tires put on because it's a split rim, AKA the Widowmaker rim. Not when you're taking it off. When you take it off, it's pretty easy. But if you don't have this rim here, this is actually a separate piece that holds the tire on. If you don't have this seated properly and you go to inflate it, it can fly off and has been known to kill people. I say that with an upbeat voice, but it's a little terrifying. So I'm going to take it into a professional that will put it in a cage and get some newer rubber put on there. And I guess I'll just, see if I can make this thing into a driver. I mean, why not? Right? It's sitting here. It's insured. I can fix the paint and the bits and pieces that are wrong with it later on. But in the meantime, I could at least get it on the road and have a little fun with it. One thing I didn't show is that the lower trim on the other side was off. I don't know why I'm over here to tell you that when it's over here. The lower rocker trim was completely, it was broken, well, not broken off. The wood, actually, yes, it was. The wood was completely busted because there was a steel frame with a thin strip of wood, and then you screw the trim piece on there. Well, that had gone wrong. So I mended it and I got it back together. And yes, I know there's little dents and things that needed to be fixed on this car. I'm just not at that stage yet where I'm worried about body work. that's all stuff that'll have to happen later. But I tell you, having a functioning door is a real important thing, and it will make it a drivable vehicle. So I guess that's it for me and the Daimler this week. Next episode, I'm going to try getting some tires on it and maybe see about getting it hauled into a shop and see if they can sort out the fuel delivery, make sure the brakes are good, and hopefully, you know, maybe even drive this thing. Oh, I washed it too. I might have mentioned that. I can't remember. It's sometimes these videos, I film them like over a period of a week or two, but I did wash all the dust and debris off of it. So it's actually looking, well, heck, from this angle, the car looks really nice. But when you get up close, it's like, not so nice. Either way, it's better than it was. It has a door that works, and I hope you enjoyed today's video while I tinkered around on a 1946 Daimler limousine. So stay tuned for more episodes, guys, as I work my way through that car, and hopefully I'll at least get a road test out of it and have a chance to get it out. It takes up a lot of room. Look at that. It's like 2 Nash Metropolitans long almost. It's a big car, but it is a great looking car. It is growing on me. I have to admit, it's growing on me. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you all soon, and bye for now.